So the last clip you just saw, I was working on the Headstock Veneer and I was still at Jerry's. It's been about a week since then and we've kind of changed venues. Currently we're at my lake house out in the barn, which explains the boat behind us, and there's a boat behind you. And right now this is the storage for all of my tools. Most of you know that I'm planning on building a shop of my own, and this is the temporary location for all the tools. But that means that I do have some tools that we can use to work on this guitar a little bit more. The first thing I think we're going to do is finish up the audio jack. I'll bring you in close and show you what we've done to fix some of our problem. So we found this bit amongst my tools, and this is, quite a bit bigger. The problem we were going to have with this was because we pre-drilled a hole, there was no way to keep this centered. So what we've gone ahead and done is I grabbed a gouge and we've marked a circle around so this bit fits right in there and has no place to go but centered. That's how we're going to do that. I guess we can go ahead and do that. You want to do that, Troy? Yeah. So another problem we had was that we couldn't find a drill bit long enough and big enough to get the wires through from the pickup cavity to the control cavity. So we went out and bought a 1/4-inch bit. We're going to use this. Anyway, we're keeping this piece of cardboard on top here to protect the body. So this jack plate is going to go on here, pretty much like this, but something we've kind of decided that would be neat to do would be to recess this into the body so that it would be pretty much flush, running your hand across. So we're going to try to do that. I think the best way to start would be marking it with a pencil, getting it centered. Trying to decide how. Is that centered?
Close enough. Close enough.
Okay. So now we've got a pencil line on there. I don't know if you can see the pencil line, but it is on there. So what I'll do now is I'll get some chisels and I'll mark the pencil line, and we'll just take out a little bit with the chisels. So I'll have to go find the chisel set. So I'm marking the edges with a big flat chisel and the mallet. I'm not doing the corners yet because they're not at perfect 90s. They're kind of beveled. So I'm just lining up the flat of the chisel against the line, giving it a tap with the mallet. It's a wood carving merit badge all over again.
No, Boy Scout.
Eagle Scout, thank you. I'm not a Boy Scout anymore. Probably pretty good. I'm going to take a small chisel and work some of that out. getting close to fitting in there. We've been working on it for a while, and while I was working on this, Troy's been sanding this, that, and the other. It's just got a little bit of a wobble, just barely not fitting in there. It's actually kind of hard to get out. Might get in there. But we're really just cleaning this up at this point. I think that's going pretty good. The problem we've run into on everything else is we want to work on getting the headstock veneer on the headstock, but we've not really got a good way to do anything. You know, it would make sense to fill this first and then sand it flat, but I don't have any good fill. So we were thinking, well, maybe we can do it after we glue the headstock veneer on, and we could do that, but I've not got a good way to cut this out. I've got the bandsaw, but I don't have the 220 outlet to plug it into. And then I've got a scroll saw, but I don't have any scroll saw blades. So there's not really a good way to get this cut. So we've kind of hit a dead end there. We've been working on sanding the body and the neck to some degree. You might be able to tell it's getting smoother. Yeah, and then Troy's also been working on cleaning up the control cavity cover, and we've got a couple of ideas about what we're going to do with this, but nothing really concrete yet. So we'll see what we do with that. And you might be able to tell I've been working on sanding up this body as well. And we'll probably take the body out now and give it all a good sanding. But we're kind of hitting stopping points because we don't have the tools we need or the supplies we need to move on. That's staying in. So Troy's been sanding this with a palm sander, and if you remember, we had a little accident here where when we were routing, we got some bits underneath the router, and they put nice big dents in here, and they're almost all the way gone, and we didn't really sand through them. What we did was, I took a wet towel, wiped the whole thing down, and that raises the grain and swells the wood up a little bit. We waited for it to dry, sanded it back, and it's almost all gone now. I think we're going to do it again. So I got a cup of water here, and just a shop towel. Also gives you a fun little look as to what it's kind of going to look like with finish on it. Go ahead and just do the whole thing. Raise the grain on all of it, will help us out in the long run. So now you could wait for this to dry, or if you've got the heater running, you can just go put it in front and push some hot air over it. That'll speed up the process. So now that you can see it's totally dry, we'll go ahead and take the palm sander back to it, and it'll knock some more of that out. And yeah, it feels rougher than before I wet it down, so it raises it back up. So palm sand away, palm sander. So because nothing is easy and it's always the hardest it can be, something was stuck to the bottom of the palm sander and left a nice mark across here, so we'll have to work that out too. But our first little issue turned out really good, I think. You know,
It's visible.
barely visible, but I think with a little more sanding, and especially when we get into hand sanding. All right, that's good enough. We're ready to go on. Well, this is what we call an old-fashioned bandsaw introduction. We're back at Jerry's, and I'm going to cut out the headstock veneer. I'm going to cut it large, and hopefully we'll get it glued on tonight so that by tomorrow morning we can work on getting the headstock to final size.
So, after I cut this out, we kind of got it lined up. You can see I've marked it in white. I got out the white colored pencil actually, and that's what marked it. Real good on the ebony. So we're going to glue it on, just like this. A little oversized. We'll bring it down to perfect size once it's attached. You can see we've got the headstock here. I've got a whole bunch of clamps ready to go. I think we're good. So, I'm trying to think about the best way to do this because we're going to want to flip this over eventually, fairly soon. But after I get glue on it.
Do you want to apply to that or both?
I'll probably put a little bit on there, mostly on here.
Well, I mean, I guess overkill is not a bad thing in this case.
Nope, clamping pressure is always one of those things where you want it to be as good as you can get it. Especially on a veneer. All right. I believe that's well clamped. So we'll leave that sit for probably until morning, and then we can work on downsizing it.
Alright, so it's been overnight since we glued the veneer on. Now I gotta cut it out slightly closer to the shape of the actual headstock, so I'm gonna do some rough cutting on this and then hopefully take it over to the sanders and get it much closer.
in an attempt to get the woodworking portion of the body done, we're working on getting the plate for the control cavity finished. This is actually our second attempt at this. We ended up making the lip for the control cavity plate a little bit bigger. And right now you can see Troy is sanding it, basically sanding it flush with the body. And it is made out of mahogany, same mahogany as the, actually I think it's from the neck, but it's all the same. So it should look really good once it's in there. Nice and flush. And it's getting really close. So really we're just about done with the woodworking portion of the body. And then we're some assembly and waiting for the neck to be done. Well, we've got a bit of a profile on the back of the fretboard now. I don't know how well you can see it, it's only in pencil. And I'm going to cut it out. I'm going to cut it large. We've also started marking up the front of the fretboard, but that's not real important yet. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this a little large. I'll probably put the red light on to help me. I'll probably turn the fan on too. Alright, so we're getting ready to get the truss rod installed, but to do that I need to cut the adjuster place in the headstock. So I've got the little cutter bit in my Dremel tool, and I'm going to do it. So we got this truss rod fitting in here pretty well. That is with the filler strip that I've got made. It's sitting right here. You can see it's in there. We cut a little slot at this end too. I didn't show that, but it's there. We're going to use Jerry's usual neck clamp he uses when he's working on them for this, that, or the other. We're just going to use that because the neck sits in it real well and it'll hold it. So I think we're ready to do this. The big thing here is not to get too much glue on the side of the filler strip because we don't want it getting on the truss rod. I marked the filler strip as well for head and body, so I know which way it goes. Okay, I think we're ready. Yeah. I'm going to put some glue on here. And I'm going to spread it with my finger. I'm going to get it in my hair. It's very important that you get some in your hair. For all you guys doing this at home. Everyone playing the sing-along game. Troy's going to be in charge of clamps because now my fingers are covered in glue.
Read wax paper and you cover the glue gun on the clamp.
Well, it's not going to squeeze out that much. I'm going to try to take most of it off. This is one of those things where you really don't want any extra glue because it's going to squeeze out on the inside and get on your truss rod. That is not what you want. Good thing it's water-soluble glue, so it's not going to stay in my hair. Or, you know, it might, and then I'll have
Gorilla Glue works well.
a little less. Yes, Gorilla Glue does work best for your hair. In the hole. It's in the hole. Alright, so I got... What was that?
I don't know.
Okay, well I got this.
Hold that end down.
Yeah, I got it.
In the end, I'm
I also
good.
just put some, well, I got hold of it. You can just squeeze. I'm sure you'll be thrilled to know that I got glue on the back of your neck.
Oh, yay.
Alright, tighten clamp McGee there.
Oh, that's wonderful.
It happens. Once it's clamped, it'll hold it.
You want that glue wiped off? I put that on there.
I'm not too worried about it.
Come on, man. Oh. How tight do these need to be?
Not super. You know, we're not trying to break anything. It's probably fine as it is. This one's a little off center. I'm just kind of pushing it in an angle. That's fine. So that should be good. The next thing we're going to do is get some epoxy and fill this back piece. I might bring you around so you can see.
Or I'll do it because you've got glue hands.
We're at 50-50. 1 to 1. A little bit. There's not a lot left. I got all the hole. Yeah. I got paper. Right back. There's the So this is as far as we got this time around. Sorry for the delay on this video. We got a little caught up working on the guitar, so the video had to wait a little bit. Stay tuned for the next one.